This is very, very silly.
Their nation. So this is first of all, this is patently false. Hang on, let me finish. I just let you. I let you give your argument. Let me give mine back.
You just described those are the material conditions.
First of all, why isn't that a sustainable birth rate?
Do you know how? Okay. Are you familiar with the concept of thermodynamics?
Wait, please.
I can't listen to your irrational rambling for that much longer without arriving at something that even resembles
You mean completely rational arguments you can't refute?
No, what you're saying is gobbledygook. It's nonsense. Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Vaush? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. This is going to be actually very, very, I think, intense intellectual discussion.
Christian nationalism against libertarian communism. A return to patriarchy is the order of the day. The way that we would achieve this is the same way the communists and feminists achieved their subversive goal of their attempted annihilation of Christianity, which is still ongoing. And that key is through the demographic shift via birth rates. The religious have a lot of children and the non-religious don't. The future essentially is ours. Our job external to that is just to slow the progressive machine down any way we can until age claims its advocates. And with that, I'll cede the rest of my time over to Vaush, and hopefully we can get into this thing.
Yeah, I noted absent of that opening from Andrew was either a description of what the problems are with modern society or how his proposed solutions would fix any of it. The problem that I have is that ultimately it feels like this is always a vibes thing, which is ironically very feminine and not at all a representation of patriarchal logic. The idea that there's something wrong with society and the best way to address it is to return with a V, just gesturing at, well, civilization lasted, ignoring the fact, of course, that Christian civilization and history has been a nonstop shit pit where countries obliterate each other, ethnic and ideological and linguistic and religious divides shift constantly, just nonstop war. But none of this really means anything. What matters is, how do we build the best life possible for the greatest number of people? And I think, of course, the Libertarian Socialism proposes many excellent solutions when it comes to the problems we have with modern life. Religion does not.
All right. This is the open segment part, so you guys have at it.
Yeah, so Vaush, let's start with your religion doesn't improve anything. And yet, as we look at the happiness indexes of the people who are the most religious, they seem to be the most happy. They're also having the most children. They're also divorcing the least. They seem to, out of all the metrics, have the least amount of mental illness. How could you possibly, with a straight face, make the claim that religion doesn't improve anything? All of your positions are material in nature, and they don't seem to work that well. They don't seem to answer greater questions.
Right off the bat, we see the analytical issues. First of all, tracking this onto number of babies had. Historically, the most babies humans have been during pre-modern medieval periods where women were pumping out 11 kids, half them would die in the fields. The number of children you have has nothing to do with how happy you are.
When you're talking about this portion of the topic, which is birth rates, which have become absolutely disastrous everywhere, not just in the West, but globally, this was all due to anti-natalist campaigning from leftists.
What's disastrous about our birth rates?
They're in free fall collapse, Vaush.
Yeah, they've lowered, as they have in every industrialized country, sure.
No, in all countries. Almost all countries everywhere, with the exception of a few African nations and Middle Eastern nations, and those are dropping off quickly too.
Industrialized countries produce fewer children because you no longer need 8 little tykes to run the farm, of course. The world population, as I understand it, is still growing at a decent clip. I mean,
but
it went from 6 billion to 8
plateauing.
Billion just to my... Sure, that's fine. We have a finite amount
of space. And then it free falls. And then it's projected to free fall by every UN analyst and by every scientific metric that you can possibly look at who has looked at this. It's expected to free fall and possibly stabilize at 6 billion in the next 150 years to 200 years. But the estimates...
What UN analyst? Yeah, I'd like to see that. Also, assuming that's the case, okay. I mean, it can't grow forever. Like, let's just say, let's presume that information is accurate. If that seems fine. I mean, what should we have? 10, 12, 15 billion?
So here's why this is problematic, Vaush, because anti-natalist policies.
Wait, you just answer what population do you think it should stop at? So, okay, it might stop at 6 billion. What meaningfully is the difference between
I think that the Earth can easily, according to analysis, have up to 25, 30 billion people with pretty it's pretty regular ease.
Is that
within that confines of those numbers
ideal? How is that better than what we have?
Because more people equals more work, less starvation. less
That's not-
starvation for populations, more work for infrastructure building, more work for, I mean, even
Yeah,
look at
but
the U.S.
fewer-
labor force now.
but
One of the
fewer
biggest
people
problems.
to cater to. This is very, very silly. The idea that everything gets better the more people are on Earth, it's just not the case. First of all, like people, the number of humans that are going to end up on the planet and like sort of plateau out at, that's not the same as our maximum carrying capacity. You don't want to hit the maximum carrying capacity for the same
Well,
reason.
we're nowhere near it.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't
It's not a
want
problem.
to. And the reason for that is the same reason you don't want to hit the maximum carrying capacity of an elevator or a restaurant. You know, maximum.
Yeah, but we don't even know what the maximum carrying capacity is, but we do know we're nowhere near it. And we're also declining.
Understand what the issue is with these broader trends.
You do agree that you do want some people on planet Earth, right? At least some
ideally.
number of them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I want
Okay,
human
so
civilization.
what number would
proceed.
that be from your perspective?
I don't care. That's the thing. That
okay. Well,
number,
then what's the argument here?
Well, no,
so we both want people.
We
both want people, and if the birth rate,
the
birth rate reduces, so a population collapses, and there's no people, that bad.
You have
so we
to
can agree on
explain
that.
to me how shifting our entire like political mindset to accommodate some arbitrary goal that you've just made up in front of me is necessary at all. I think that if we build,
it can't be arbitrary if you agree we need humanity.
No, the endpoint is still arbitrary.
Let me jump in and bridge the gap really quick.
Well, really quickly, I just want to ask, or I just want to put forward like the point here really quickly, okay? I think that we should build good political systems that make people happy and encourage growth and economic stability and all those wonderful things. I do not think we need to orient everything about some kind of psychotic pro-natalist perspective where we try to keep women out of colleges and in the home so every single one of them has like 7 children.
So you guys both agree that there needs to be humans on Earth. But the difference is that Vaush is saying, hey, I don't understand why it's important for us to increase the amount of people that we have on the planet now. Andrew's saying, hey, I think that would actually be better. So that's what Vaush is asking.
No, that's actually incorrect. So what I'm saying to you is that the amount of people who are on planet Earth right now are slated to significantly decrease down to maybe half or below.
I have not seen any numbers.
What the current status is right now. Okay, well, I've just linked the article over to you. China's population right here.
What about world? World population.
This is the projection. Now, the world population, the UN projection was at 6 billion. However, the trend is very, very quickly going the other direction. I can send you an article on this as well.
As the world industrializes.
So they're saying that it could be reduced to as little as 3.5 billion to 4 billion. They don't know.
So these are speculative numbers that don't actually tie in with like the broader consensus. I think that what's the problem here is that this is all fake policy. There is no such thing as like global pronatalism or antinatalism. You said earlier the left does antinatalism. This is nonsense.
Let me give you an example.
People have children and are able to have children in line with the material circumstances they live in. Are they educated? Do they have the money? Do they have the space in their household? Are there cultural values that incline them towards having more children or not? These are the things that we can do and control. Now, if we're to have a discussion on what we should promote, here's something I think we could do, okay? I think
no.
Cool.
Let me respond to these 2 points because both of them are inaccurate. The first one is the 2 points that you smuggled in.
What if we
agree? First point that you smuggled in was that people can only have children based on material conditions. Not true. They have children outside of the scope of their material conditions all the time. And that's why you see some of the poorest nations in the world breeding more than any other nation.
So
this is first of all, this is patently false. Hang on, let me finish. I just let you give your argument. Let me give mine back.
You just described those are the material conditions. Material conditions doesn't mean if you're rich enough. It means that the circumstances that surround you give you the ability and inclination to do something. Poverty inclines people towards having lots of children. That is a material condition.
Oh, man. Okay, fine. Even if I grant this, okay, this kind of second thing which you smuggled in is that the left has no anti-natalist policy, but they do. They're the by far the largest advocates of abortion everywhere on planet Earth. That's a left-wing socialist policy for sure. It's absurd to say otherwise.
So you're saying that giving people the choice as to whether or not they want to have children, it leads to a decrease in how many children people have?
First, well, again, this is a smuggled in premise.
That's not, I'm just asking you a question.
You're not giving them the choice. You're saying you can't kill your offspring. There's a distinction.
No, the legality of abortion is giving people the choice to have or to not have children. It leaves out the possibility of accidentally having
this
children.
is your bad
No, please,
you're making the assumption it's not murder.
Stop complaining that literally anything that doesn't immediately like pre-pack your framing into it is some kind of biased question, okay?
Well, then don't complain immediately that I accept your framing as being true.
Well, my framing is that if people have the option to abort a fetus, that they will have less children. I think that people people should want to have the children they have. So I want to build a society in which maybe people have more children, but they're amped about it. And what that means is supporting material policies, like, for example, free childcare, or better tax credits, or legal mandates for corporations to provide maternity and paternity leave. Those are examples of things that socialists tend to support and would massively increase the viability of having children, even in an industrialized country. That's real politics.
Then,
right
if
there.
that's true, then how come in the nations where these things are implemented, you have not seen the birth rate make a recovery, Vaush?
Well, I think that there's more to it than that. You have to give people the
So then why are you
options
giving me policies that don't work? I don't care.
They do work.
Give me policies that work.
They do work.
Well,
However,
okay, well then show me how they work.
okay, I do,
and where they work.
Wait, do you need me to explain to you how like state subsidized daycare makes it easier for people to have kids?
Why?
I feel like
It
that's
has
pretty
not done
intuitive.
any reversal to the birth rate in the nations which have implemented
Well,
it. None.
wait. Do you have data that demonstrates it has absolutely no
Yes, the
effect?
birth
even
rate.
though for the past
Which
century?
nation would you like to cite? And I'll give you the birth rates and that they're on the decline. Absolutely.
What specific policies? Wait, hold on. They're on the decline. Is it possible
Mm-hmm.
they would be more on the decline if it wasn't for those policies?
It's
Then how do you know?
possible.
Then how do you
however,
know? Wait, no, that's
however,
so you confidently
if it-
say you have data
even
that
if it
demonstrates
were, but
correlations
even if
for
it were,
positive behavior.
they don't. You say that these are the policies which would reverse the trend. They want. They
I
don't
can-
reverse the trend.
I can give more. So a lot
Then
of it,
give more.
Sure. A lot of it also has to do with work culture. Even in a society in which people are given the opportunity to have children with state mandates and subsidies and what have you, there's a huge issue of like people lose out economically on a lot by having children. A lot of this also has to do with like keeping dads in the home, right? Like if a dad takes 6 months off work, even if it's part of paternity leave, that is a rough sell economically, and it can disincentivize their future promotions. I think that we should have a culture that is much more permissive towards people not being nonstop 24/7 workaholics, because that shit kills families. Not only does it prevent people from having kids, it also fucks up the kids if they are born.
This
because
is a
dad's always out
restatement
house.
of the same exact claim. You're giving a material position to this, and yet in the places where you have these material positions, like France, for instance, where you have a reduction in the work week, and you do have these types of childcare programs, you still see the collapse in free fall of their birth rates. This is not reversing these trends.
Wait, hold on.
whatsoever.
One second. France birth rate over time. You use very scary words like collapse and free fall, and I just want to make sure
free
that
fall.
it looks like it's been holding roughly steady for decades.
What?
Births per
Send it in the
1,000
private chat.
people.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, wait, I have it shown here. So it looks like in percentage increase and decrease, there's been like a 2% aggregate decrease since. Wait, hold on. So it's in the year of our Lord 2000,
2023.
right? No, 2000, 12.7, and then right here you had down to 1. So I guess it's
So as
reduced
of
by a couple
2020,
of
France was at
percentage
1.83 births per woman. That's not even replacement rate, Vaush. You
Well, they
have
have-
nothing here.
points. Okay, but what's the rate over the past few decades? Also,
You
they
need to have at
immigration.
least 2.2. But even if that were true and the rate were still decreasing past your policy implementation, it hasn't reversed it.
Wait,
It hasn't done what you want it to do.
So wait,
man.
again, you don't seem to understand how this data works. The whole point of like inferring causality and why it's bad is that you don't know whether or not these would have been worse otherwise. So I'm looking at macrotrends.net on the France fertility rate, where it seems like back in 1978, they had 1.86 births per woman, and right now they have 1.86 births per woman. There's been about a bunch of like fluctuation, but over the past 45 years, the French birth rate has stayed basically the same. So I don't like it when you use
You're
terms
talking
like
about
collapse
a
and free
negligible
fall.
difference right
Over
now.
40
at 20,
years stability.
hang on.
40 years of
in
stability.
the year 2020, the United States at 1.64
Well,
birth
I thought
rate,
we were talking about
and France is only negligibly at 1.8. This is a negligible distinction,
we were talking
utilizing the
about-
same policies that you advocate for.
We were talking about France, and I just don't like you using terms like collapse and free fall when what we actually see is total stability over the past 40 years. I mean, that's not
No,
really
we
collapse and
don't.
free-
In fact, I'm pulling it. Their
I
birth
can
rate
link
looks
it to you.
exactly like, bro. Their birth rate looks exactly like ours. It has been collapsing since World War II.
Okay, wait.
There's
hold
no
on.
doubt that I'm looking at the data.
Okay, wait. I'm going to link you this really quickly so you can see what I'm seeing, because I feel like we're
Okay.
talking past each other a little bit. I have linked it right there. And as you can see, the French birth rate has remained stable for nearly 45 years now, which is pretty significant, I feel. Unless I'm misreading this data, but it was at 1.86 per woman back in 1978. And it's the same today. So again, like free fall and stability are
Okay,
opposites.
1.5. So, okay, so we see a historical collapse. We see in the UN projections and yet another collapse. So
wait,
no,
what
listen.
wait, I'm
This
looking.
is still,
What
listen,
collapse?
this is
Wait,
still
wait,
a
wait, wait,
collapse.
wait. What collapse? I'm looking at a horizontal line. What is your definition of collapse? Where's the collapse?
Yeah, so I'm going to send you over the counter data.
No,
because this is not correct.
In the data, okay, so you're contesting the data, but in the data that I'm looking at that I just sent you, the macro trends link, you would agree that this is not a collapse. This is stability, right?
According to this particular projection, what I see is a massive free fall, which happened. You would agree that that's a free fall, right?
Well, it decreased. Free fall implies
Yeah.
like a lack of stability when in fact our countries are the most stable.
Well, I
and
mean,
powerful
so
in
it
all of
goes
human
down.
history.
Okay, so it starts at 2.8 and it goes all the way down to 1.8.
So just
That's
free
a significant
fall
collapse.
is like panic language. It's like woman stuff, you know?
And
Free
then it
fall-
goes down
free
to
fall
one.
is like when
Okay,
you
fine,
fall off
fine, whatever. The language, you don't like the language.
It's important. It's like saying like the number of horses used in public travel free fell after 1920, and it's like, okay, it didn't really free fall. It decreased, but I don't like, because free fall implies some kind of like catastrophic event, you know? You can't have a nonstop birth rate of 6 children per woman. That's not a sustainable birth rate.
First of all, why isn't that a sustainable birth rate?
Do you know how? Okay, are you familiar with the concept of thermodynamics? You need to explain to me how you don't think it's an issue to exponentially increase the human population indefinitely.
No, my ask of you was, you made the claim that this would be a problem if every woman on planet Earth had 6 children. I asked you why that would be a problem, because that's your claim.
And I said, and you might recall this, I said because we have a finite amount of space, and if we do that, we would bring the human population beyond a sustainable level.
Okay, so I could agree with you in
this
theory.
This is such a silly conversation.
So,
like we're
so hang
actually
on.
arguing.
So I can agree
about...
with you. I can agree with you in theory that would be true if it was perpetual, with like, you know, this was for every single woman forever.
Andrew, I said,
yes, that would likely happen. But
we can't have a 6 children per woman birth rate forever. And you asked why not. Now, don't pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah, but do you know why I did that?
Why'd
I asked
do
you
that?
this because I wanted you to land on the number which is sustainable.
Which is?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
What? I don't.
Because you say X is not sustainable. I can agree to that. But what number is sustainable?
So your argument then is that we should magically make women produce a exponentially larger number of children until we just eventually happen to hit the maximum possible amount of children, or like people we can have on the planet. And then we have what? A bunch of like war and resource conflicts. We're running out of drinkable water as it is in many parts of the world.
I haven't even put forward a policy. Why are you arguing against strawmen?
I know, because you have nothing.
You're arguing against strawmen.
No, I'm
ask
arguing
me for a policy instead, and I'll ask you for one.
I've asked you for policies multiple times. I've provided half a dozen.
So if you want a specific pro-natalist policy, which I have, would be eliminating abortion.
Okay,
that's a pro-natalist policy.
Phenomenal. I don't care. I think that if people are going to have children,
well, you don't care, but I haven't given you any policies.
No.
Right?
It's been like 40 minutes, and it's all been vibes from you. It's all been like, well, I think it should be like this. Tell me why an infinite number of humans wouldn't be a good idea. But you haven't even provided an argument for why we should just catapult the human population to the maximum possible level this planet can hold. Like morally.
Well, first of all, I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you to push it to the maximum limit. What I said to you is that what we have seen as a trend, and I would love to see you disagree with this, is that more people equals less starvation, as opposed to when there was less people and more starvation. And every single scientific study I've seen on this proves that this is true.
Is that a causative relationship?
Even the vegans know that this is true.
Is this a causative relationship, or do you think that changes?
Yes, it's a causative relationship.
Yes. you're saying that even though we already have enough food to feed all humans on Earth right now, we need more people to make more food to feed more humans, so we have less starvation than the theoretically none we could be having right now?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of loaded presuppositions.
Can you answer
there.
that directly?
The first loaded presupposition. Don't cut me off when I answer your question.
Well, you're not answering the question, which is the problem.
I'm answering it. So first of all, your loaded presupposition there is nobody said that we even have enough food right now for the entirety of the population. You just smuggled that in.
No, we
second,
do. I think you said that earlier.
It's the ginormous cost of human labor, which is what allows that food to go all over the world. The United States, for instance, massive exporter of food. We are an importer of food as well. Other nations are, but it's due to the fact that we can export and import. You can get things like salt and pepper and all of these other different things. So how do you think salt mines work? How do you think food is gathered?
We already have food. You're arguing that we need 30 billion people on Earth in order to get things that we already have.
Well, we would at least need to sustain the current population.
We can. We have enough to.
Well, then why is the birth rate going down, genius?
What? I'm sorry.
Wait, sustain it.
Wait, Andrew, I sincerely want to know, what on God's green earth are you arguing right now? I genuinely have no idea what point you're trying to make.
You said to me, why is it that we should keep it sustained? So I tell you why we should keep it sustained. You say we have enough workers and food right now. However, if the birth rate's too low and the population goes down, we won't have those workers, right?
The population is currently increasing.
And and it's slated to do what soon? Which way? Up or down?
Some people say that it's going to decrease, which would happen if we hit the maximum population as well. You realize that if we had a gigantic please, I can't listen to your irrational rambling for that much longer without arriving at something that even resembles.
You mean completely rational arguments you can't refute?
No, not even remotely.
Yes.
So you realize that even if we had a gigantic population boom and we hit it and we plateaued at what, 35 million, there would still be constant fluctuations in the overall population, which would have their own economic cycles, crises, and rejuvenations.
Stop trying to shift the topic. We were exactly where we... Wait. So you asked me about lowering... You said, we have enough people now. Here's Vaush's exact words. Here's Vaush's exact words.
You're saying all
we can
of this
sustain
needs to be done.
Stop cutting me off, Vaush.
Andrew,
let me finish, and then you can talk.
You cut me off. You're saying that all of this needs to be done.
You tell me when you give me the signal for when you're done talking, and then I will go ahead and refute what you're saying.
It will be a while. So you're saying all of this needs to be done to avoid the problems associated with population decrease, but that would also happen even if we hit the maximum carrying capacity of the planet, because population fluctuations are an inevitable part of all human civilization, depending on a variety of internal factors. So we would never even be fully rid of the problem of the population occasionally decreasing. That's one. For two, you've made the argument that we need more people to feed more people. This makes absolutely no sense. We have enough resources on the planet as it is, and we're going to run into more resource issues the more people we have. Because in addition to climate change literally eating up millions and millions of square miles of like arable population-filled land, we also have the broader problem that these are not like problems we need to solve right now. We already have the resources necessary to feed as many people as we want within our own population. If you want to increase the population, again, this isn't like a policy-first issue. If you want, there are policies that you can promote, and if people are happy and feel like they can, maybe they can have more children. But the idea of like, we need to drop everything right now and change everything. No. Wait, I said I'd tell you. The idea that we need to drop all sensible policymaking and forget about socioeconomics as a concept just so we can pursue this arbitrary goal of inflating the population, creating, by the way, massive resource conflicts, because quadrupling the human population within a century or two would inevitably lead to massive conflict, because those gains would not be distributed evenly across populations, people with different territories that wouldn't be fully settled. So we're causing all these problems for what? If you want to ban abortion, just say ban abortion. Like, don't... It's like
already have. Well, but now back to my argument.
No, wait. I didn't say. Wait. You said discipline.
Are you ever going to give the fucking signal?
Discipline. Well, I told you. Take a while. Discipline is being a man making promises and filling to those promises. Okay, so you have to wait a bit longer. Earlier on in your opening statement, you whined about the left and feminism.
Just a gish gallop, Vaush. Let me respond to your point.
Well, hold on.
Listen,
you said, and
this is ridiculous. Your initial argument was such.
Conservatism. Then
Hang
just
on.
talk
Your
about
initial
Christian
argument was such. What you said was this. You said, we already have enough people to sustain. You just made the argument again, by the way. We already have enough people to sustain this, and we can deliver global food because there's plenty of food right now with the current population we have. But you also agree that the population is slated to go significantly down by the birth rate. You know this. You've conceded that it's true. These two things cannot make sense together. You can't say, why are you advocating a pro-natalist policy when we already have all the people that are required in order to deliver all this food?
There will always be population
in the future, don't cut me off, didn't cut you off.
You did,
in the future, we're not going to have this population. We can see it in all the trends, including the UN forecast. That's why we need a pro-natalist policy. And you, the materialist, is still arguing against it, even knowing that that's true.
Well, I don't think you have pro-natalist positions. I think that what you're talking about would actually wreak devastation and mass death on an unprecedented scale.
Which
but thankfully, Thankfully, it doesn't matter because what you're saying is gobbledygook. It's nonsense. The idea of like, what's my first policy position? Make more babies.